Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, episode 367. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail from Communities Digital News and White Fights, Daniel from Ford Boxing News and the Inscriber. What's going on, lady and gent?
Hey, it's Thursday night. Pound for pound, boxing report time.
Yeah, for those who are not watching the NBA Finals and want to hear some boxing talk, or for those who are watching it and still want to hear some boxing talk on the side, here we are. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report live YouTube show podcast, as well as blog/site discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it pertains to the sweet science, it will get discussed. If you want to find out any and all information, please go to the site, p4pboxingreport.com. If you would like to email us with questions, comments, and whatnot, you can do so p4pboxing at p4pboxingreport.com. On the site, you will see links to where to uh, check us out on social media, links to the Twitter page, Facebook Meta page, YouTube channel, IG, Tumblr. Also links to where to find us all over the podcast realm. We're just about everywhere right now, be it Apple Podcasts, be it Google Podcasts, be it Anchor, be it Spotify, anywhere and everywhere else in between. Also, links to where you can donate. Let donation be the best nation. $1, $2, $5. It really doesn't matter to me. I really appreciate the shooting on some spare change that you may have. Um, It'll help the overall production behind the show. And last but certainly not least, the Beachbody On Demand link is still there, even though I'm not coaching anymore. I strongly suggest you check out Beachbody On Demand if you, as we're just days officially into the summer, and given the weather, particularly where I live, it's already dead set summer here, just 100 degrees. It's been 100 degrees basically all of this week. But still, you want to get your body right for the summertime. Please check out Beachbody On Demand. Any and all programs that you're interested in, whatever your body goals, Beachbody on Demand will provide them. If you're looking for a boxing based program specifically, check out 6 rounds, 6 week program, which 3 days a week is boxing based cardio, 2 days a week it is weightlifting. Also, check out programs, be it the work, be it morning meltdown, be it bar blend, MFBA. The challenging 6 weeks of the work, 645. If you're looking for something straight weightlifting, or weightlifting focus, check out Lift 4. And this Lift 4 Part 2, I'll just say that program is going to drop this summer. Or at the very least, take advantage of the 2 week of the 14-day free trial. And that is, for 14 days, you get free access to any and all programs on Beachbody On Demand. Let's get things going this evening. I'll split things up for the most part here. Well, no. I will split things most part for the most part in terms of fight recaps, but I want everybody's opinion on a few fights, on a couple of these fights. Um let's start with Japan. Due to scheduling issues and the fact that this fight took place basically in the middle of the week, we kind of previewed this fight early, and it happened a day, I think, a day after our last episode, right? And that is the rematch between Naoya Inoue and Nonito Donaire. Fight took place in same locale, Saitama Arena, as their first fight back in November 2019, when they fought in the final of the World Boxing Super Series Bantamweight Tournament. Said it numerous times, Donaire gave Inoue the toughest fight of his career, but Inoue rallied late, scored knockdown, and kind of pulled away in the end, winning by unanimous decision. The rematch was highly anticipated. Both fighters had came into this part two on a roll. Donaire had recovered from that loss 2.5 years ago to win a bantamweight title, the WBC version. Inoue has been continuing to roll, and Gail, we all had hopes that the rematch would live up to hype. It would be, if not better, or close to as good as the first fight. But in the end, Naoya Inoue how many times does he have to live up to his nickname, his moniker of the monster? Because man, hurt Donaire at the end of round one with a perfectly well placed right hand right down the button, and just finished him off in dramatic, emphatic way in round two. Ended up being a 2 round destruction. He now has three of the four titles at 118 pounds. And talk about that win first of all, because I I didn't make a real prediction. I just wanted to see the fight and hoping it would live up to expectations. It didn't, in the fact that it didn't go nearly as long, but it kind of did in a certain way because of Naoya Inoue, who was just once again spectacular.
It flipped the script. It was still thrilling. It was still jaw dropping, spectacular, enjoyable. We all got to either on the West Coast go back to bed because the fight only lasted about 4.5 minutes, or you got on with your day. I think almost every pundit, every expert I respect had some version of, hey, my head says it's going to be Inoue. My heart really is for Donaire. And we hoped he would at least deliver the same sort of battle to Inoue that he had the first time, but it was not to be. Inoue had him sized up, even though Donaire appeared to be coming out busy early, right from the bell. But Inoue found the home for a hard left hook in the last minute or so of the first round, and he popped Donaire hard, and it was over almost at that point. Now, Donaire survived the round only to get blasted out in the second round. He was very gracious in defeat, very much, it was not my night, the better man won. Compliments to him, class all the way, exactly what we expect from Nonito Donaire. So it was less about Donaire failing to deliver than Inoue showing what tremendous skills and punching power he's got. He just ripped right through him. To his credit, Donaire in the first fight is really the only opponent Inoue has had in certainly his professional career who's ever pressed him or tested him at all. But Inoue learned his lessons very well from that first fight and applied himself, and we saw the results. And it was thrilling, just not quite as much action as we thought we were going to get.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'll go to you, Daniel. First of all, I want to thank Jay for his comments, for listening live. If you like what you're hearing right now, or you're checking us out at a later time, please make sure you hit that like button, and also we love it for you to click that subscribe button as well. It'll help our overall algorithm and get us closer to getting monetized. I'll go to you, Daniel. You and I and Gail, we were all part of like a private group of boxing media members who were able to witness the fight live, and we were all not necessarily surprised at who won, but the way in which, in a way, won. Now having basically a week, a little over a week now to digest this fight. Your opinions?
In many ways, this was how people really thought the first fight was going to go. Because when it came to the first fight, even though Donaire, like I said, kept winning and winning, people thought, oh, the monster's going to knock him out. And it turned out to be, like I said, the fight of the year candidate. But unfortunately, the main thing that happened is in the 3 years since that fight, anyway, just got better. He was able to adjust, and eventually, unfortunately, Nonito, even though he pressed the action early, like Gail said, anyway learned enough where he could counter and not make it a firefight. That's probably Donaire's only main chance that he had, so he could land his left hook. And it also show you, like, anyway, when people can put him in the pound for pound conversation, and put him at number one, there's some credence to that. And it was a 3 victory, obviously, in the same venue that you had before. Vicious shot at the end of that first round. Vicious. And it was the only thing that saved there was the bell. And ultimately, luckily, Inoue took care of business in that point. Now, the best part about this whole fight was just how gracious Donaire was. You never saw any excuses. You never had any situations. He said it. He took a loss at command. And it just exemplifies a level of class that we don't see a lot in boxing these days. And now we have another fighter that is one step closer to becoming undisputed. This may be the year where maybe undisputed in the weight classes can start be seen as the norm.
Indeed. In a way, after the fight, well, first of all, to your point about Donaire, who I believe went on Twitter Space after the fight, just a few hours after the fight, gave his thoughts on what went down, and he praised, in a way, class personified, as you just stated, Daniel. After the fight, in a way, he says he wants to become undisputed. That means fighting Butler, who I believe is the WBO champion, right? I'm already hearing rumors that that fight could happen in December in Japan. Um, Stephen Fulton, Cool Boy Steph, people are coming at him about a possible fight with Inoue. He says he wants it, but let's hold off on it now. But more to the point, let's get to the the title of this particular episode, because in the aftermath of this win, particularly the day after the win, because of a lot of us in the States, for all of us in the States, really, this fight took place in the early morning hours of June 7th, right? Okay, I saw a lot of comments and whatnot about where does Inoue now place in terms of pound for pound boxing list. The folks who I write for Three Kings Boxing, please make sure to check out them, threekingsboxing.com, your source for pure unadulterated boxing information. We had our discussions about it privately, right? We've shout out to the staff at Three Kings. I am a senior writer there. Shout out to the fellow senior writers, Bo, who's also head of media relations, Bakari, Drill, aka Big Cool, the man who runs the entire operation, 2K. Over Three Kings, in a way, has been elevated to number 3, I believe. But I've heard Daniel and Gail, a lot of people claiming now that, in a way, is deserving of the number 1 spot, pound for pound. Do you think that is the case? Has, in a way, moved up now in the mythical pound for pound rankings? Um, the status of the monster following this destructive win over Nonito Donaire.
I believe he's a worthy candidate to be in that one spot, depending on your criteria. Everyone's criteria is different. It's not like there's a checklist. I mean, certainly you have a little bit of a logjam at the top right now. Boy, what a great thing for us as boxing fans. You could make a case, a good one, for Inoue, for Alexander Usyk, for Errol Spence, for Bud Crawford. And hell, there are people who would still argue in favor of Canelo Alvarez. I don't hate you if you've got any of those 5 at the top. Personally, as much as I admire Inoue's amazing skill set, the exciting fights that he puts on, I'd probably still have Usyk in the top of that list. But right now, Usyk's out of play. I mean, assuming he does come back for a rematch with Anthony Joshua, that could change. That has to be considered, though. How long has a particular fighter right up there at the top been out of play? So that could swing it one way or the other. But these lists are very fluid, very individual. So he's certainly got a good case for himself, though.
Yeah, I agree. Like as mentioned, there's credence to him being put number one, and obviously with Canelo losing to Bivol the way he did, it does like warrant putting him in the discussion. I personally would probably still have Usyk on top because even though, yeah, he has been out of the ring for a while, we all know the circumstances of why he's been out of the ring for a while. So that one is more understandable in the sense of keeping him in number one. But it is a very fluid list. It is something that, for the most part, for everybody, it's subjective. Like I said, we have to remember the creation of the term pound for pound. It was mainly done to highlight fighters that were not getting the spotlight in the heavyweight when compared to heavyweights, because we know still in this country, heavyweights are the ones that dominate the conversation when it comes to the casual fans. So there's a way to recognize them. But anyway, definitely has a case for it. And should he completely unify at the end of the year, you have a case for definitely for him right there. Unless we hear some very, very, very late news of a Spence Bud matchup being done by the end of this year, which I don't think at this point that'll be the case. But he's certainly up there. If he's not number one in a lot of people's eyes, he's probably going to be at least top three.
I would have him top three on my list. I don't know if I have him one. Based off of pure ability and talent, I still go with Bud. If you're talking what have you done for me lately, Usyk is more than deserving of being ranked number one. But anyway, he is coming. He's rising with a bullet. Uh, you just can't knock him and for what he's doing. I know there are folks out there who say, "Well, he's a little guy. He don't deserve that much respect because he's a little guy." Forget that. If you can fight, you can fight, and if you beat champions and high quality fighters, that's it. That's the only thing. That is the only thing that matters. And people who go off on the fact of size, I question their boxing bona fides. Real talk. Uh, so yeah, he's up there. Quick comment here from Jay in the chat. Again, thank you. Appreciate you checking this out live. He says that first fight, Donaire hit hard. He basically, let me translate. Donaire hit him hard in the second round. He broke Inoue's face. He said second time around it was Inoue who landed first. He said if Donaire would have landed first, the fight would have gone different. I disagree with that. I understand your point because both guys can punch. My issue is with the second fight, it seemed even from round one, in a way, he looked like he had more significantly improved to Gail's point from that first fight to the second fight. And look at the size of Inoue. When they fought in November 2019, Donaire looked noticeably bigger. You can see and this is why people would dismiss him just because they're small, they don't really pay attention. Gail, Daniel, look at Inoue's body, how it has matured and grown from that first fight to that second fight. First time around, Donaire looked a full division bigger. You didn't see that this time. They look they look just as this, they look same size, right? And that coupled with the quickness of Inoue, and no, just based on those two rounds, it wouldn't have mattered much what Donaire did. That's how much Inoue has improved, and that's how good he is as a fighter right now. Let's move on here to some other fights, and I want to see how I can do this. I want to take this second fight. There was a no. I'll go to you, Daniel. If you saw this fight, fight took place in Mexico. Headlined a card on the Zone on June the 10th. The card was headlined by Hiroto Kyoguchi, WBA super champion at 108 pounds. He fought the regular champion Bermudez, and when we previewed it, I thought it was going to be basically a 60-40 matchup, but just like Inoue really showed his superiority in the rematch with Donaire. Kyoguchi really showed his superiority here. He could miss with the uppercut. He was sharp from jump. And yeah, Bermudez tried to rally, but in the end, Bermudez was ultimately beat up. Uh, I would argue this is one of the top 2, 3 performers of Kyoguchi's career. Going to Bermudez's home country of Mexico and not just winning, but dominating, he made a statement.
Whoo, yeah, he made a statement. That was a beautiful fight to see. Because, yeah, even though that uppercut for Kikuchi was landing all night, and Bermudez was a bloody mess by the time they stopped the fight, it was still very compelling, and we don't have to forget about the 2 points that he got deducted during the fight, which if you looked at the scorecards, if you did, the fight looked a lot closer than what it was on the scorecard. But for Kikuchi, he took care of business. I thought Bermudez was going to be able to bring a little bit to him. He has the heart of a champion, but he was a bloody mess with those uppercuts. He was a bloody mess by the time that they stopped the fight. And it's like good and Kyoguchi going into what you're supposed to do, even when you're a champion. Go into the enemy's turf, handle your business, and in Kyoguchi's case, prove why you're the actual super champion rather than just a regular champion. Tip my hat to him. Is that right?
My bad, y'all. I was on mute. I was talking on mute. I was saying that at this point, all roads has to lead towards a unification bout with Kenshiro Teraji, who we saw win reclaim the title in March um, against Yabuki, stopped him in the third round. Um, Kyoguchi, both of those fighters, Kyoguchi and Kenshiro, have talked about unification. It's a really good bout in Japan. This fight here for Kyoguchi is a perfect setup for it. I don't know what he does next, but for me, those two they got to fight unification bout. They got to do that in Japan. Hopefully on a big end of the year show. But yeah, that is the fight. That is the fight at 108 pounds. I'll go to you, Gail. I'm gonna put this on you. My apologies beforehand. Fight that
I'll,
took place
I'll
in NYC.
take one for the team. Go ahead. I know
The
it's
fight
coming.
that took place in the little theater at MSG
Ugh.
as Edgar Berlanga fought Alexis Angulo, and yeah, all this hype that Berlanga got received in his first 16 fights when he scored 16 knockouts. That's all dissipated right now because he got the win against Angulo, but didn't look good doing so at all. And and afterwards, the talk was as much about what took place in round 7. And for those who didn't see the fight, there was a point where Angulo, I think, may have hit him with an elbow, and Berlanga responded by biting him in the neck area. He apologized after the fight, but I believe in New York State the Athletic Commission has handed down a 6-month suspension for him. But yeah, all around for Berlanga, the opportunity was there for him to impress against a guy who comes straight forward, straight down the line. But no, no, no. There continue to be more questions and answers when it comes to Edgar Berlanga.
Well, damn! I thought you were going to ask me about that heavyweight fight, but I'll take a pass. I'll take a pass on that in favor of Berlanga and Angulo. Listen, there are a lot of people to blame, including Berlanga himself, for the mess he's gotten himself into. Top Rank was looking desperately for stars, and they've been desperately looking for the next great Puerto Rican star. during the pandemic, which made it even tougher. And here comes along this kid who got himself a knack for these first round knockouts. So Top Rank, from a marketing perspective, decided, hey, let's just set him up and let him knock him down for a while. And, we'll build this up and everyone will have a good time. And they did, until they finally pressed the issue a little too much, and Berlanga didn't look so hot suddenly with a opponent that fought back, that didn't just stand there and, let him have at it. And he's been in front of several of those opponents now, shifting to what should have happened a dozen fights ago, which is getting in rounds, learning your craft, learning it not in the co-main event, not in a hype feature event, not in the main event, but off TV, maybe on the stream. And he is in a position where he feels he cannot make any mistakes at all. Never mind wins or losses, just flat out mistakes. And that's how you learn when you're new at anything, much less an athletic activity. So in this fight, I think Top Rank hoped Berlanga had kind of gotten more experience, kind of gotten the yayas out over his last 3 fights, which were all decisions. And it turned out Angulo, didn't come to lay down either. He wasn't there for just a paycheck. He was fighting back, and, he was using some veteran dirty tactics. I mean, he wasn't getting caught, so there you go. And Berlanga, after a few rounds where he demonstrated he could box, that was his point, then wanted to bear down and show that he now had the best of both worlds, but he couldn't get a handle on Angulo and couldn't score a knockout, couldn't even knock him down. And he was getting frustrated. And he took a bit of a shoulder to the face in a clench, and that's when the teeth came out. Now, I didn't really see a full-on bite. I saw what happens when my absolute psychotic 8-month-old puppy puts his mouth on my hand. And I feel the teeth, but he isn't bearing down on me. I'm not sure that Berlanga broke the skin, or he certainly didn't take a chunk out of him, out of Angulo. But Angulo saw what was happening. It's like, hey, wait a minute, what the hell? What's this going on here? And unfortunately, it happened on the side of their heads, away from the referee, who did not see it. Clearly, we in the home audience saw it all. So just, one more messy incident in what's turning into being a bit of an unfortunate career stretch for Berlanga. Here's what needs to happen. He got the decision victory. He did enough to win. It was ugly. It wasn't the comeback he hoped for. Here's what needs to happen. Top Rank, take him off TV. Stop putting him in the main event. Give him some opponents that will make him work, make him learn off TV. Hell, go have him fight in Puerto Rico if you want to build up his stardom. He is not a Puerto Rican native. He's a first-generation American of Puerto Rican-born parents. So take him to the island for some shows there, some cards there, or hell, take him down to Mexico, or both. Get him busy, get him in the ring, and take him out of New York, where he's surrounded by people he knows, and have him train elsewhere. He does have a new trainer, but boy, I'd like to see him either A, out in the desert in Indio, California, and let some of those Uzbekis and Joel Diaz's stable beat the crap out of him for a while. That'll teach him a few things. Or send him down to Florida to the Sweatbox, where his co-star, co-rising Puerto Rican star, who I know, Michael, you agree, and I know, Daniel, you agree, that the real rising star is Xander Zayas, and that is where he is training. Set up a little friendly rivalry, get him in the same gym. I think that would do nothing but good. If Berlanga is going to succeed, he's got to be forced through this difficult period for him. I'm willing to see what he can do, give him a chance. It's just been a very unfortunate road with the best of intentions, but it hasn't done him any good.
Yeah, I want to see them take him somewhere and put him like through a boot camp where he gets some real tough, tough sparring, right? Uh, to try to some real tough sparring to the point where he has to sink or swim. It seems like that he has gotten a little bit too big for his britches. Uh, from a mental standpoint, he's better than he thinks he is. He may need to be a little bit of humility, both not just out of the ring, but more importantly in the ring. If he wants to be cocky out of the ring, whatever, you just have to show it on fight night, and that comes with putting work in the gym, putting work in the gym, and I just want to see that. I just want to see him go through some. I know gym wars are necessarily not a good thing, but sometimes they're needed. If we're gonna be really honest about it, for a fighter to improve, he just needs to go through a hard camp where he gets beat up a little bit and he has no choice to improve. And next time you see him in the ring, to your point, Gail, it does not have to be on television, or if it is, let's not do it main event style, because right now he's not a main event fighter, not even close to it. Just like we have our questions about Edgar Berlanga. Questions are starting to rise more and more for Jaime Munguia Daniel, who also fought over the weekend. And yeah, he won, but let's be honest here. We talked about it last week when they announced his opponent of Jim Kelly. I didn't know if it was the former Bills quarterback or had the brother with the fro from the black exploitation films and Enter the Dragon as he rose up from the dead. And for most of this fight, Daniel, Munguia had his issues. Kelly was had more than a few moments until he got caught, and eventually Munguia finished. I know he called out Jamal Charlo, WBC champion,
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, but I'm like, okay, sensational finish, but what about the moments up to that point? What was that?
I think we've all reached the certain point where Jaime Munguia is not gonna be a defensive fighter at all, unfortunately. Even and short of a drastic trainer change, that's not gonna change on it. What's different about in this instance and what made it interesting when it came to fight, it was a new weight class for him because this was technically at a catchweight, but also the super middleweight division. And you could tell from the weigh-in to when he arrived in the ring that this suits him a little bit better when it comes to weight wise. He had no issues making weight in the weigh-in, which is has been lately a bit of concern for him at 160. And now the other stage, okay, he could probably make the weight, but the fact remains is that yeah, you're stepping up in the division, and those guys can hit a little bit harder because they're a little bit bigger. And Kelly did catch him a couple of times. But what probably made this a little bit better, and this is a good comparison to what we had with Berlanga, who we saw difficult opponent, and it frustrated him to the point where he not only bit, he headbutted Angulo after the fight, and that may have been what that in the bite is what led him to not be suspended for 6 months, but in the New York State Athletic Commission, which means yeah, if he's gonna fight next time, he ain't gonna be in New York. But in contrast, Munguia, same thing, difficult opponent, new weight class, was frustrating, was outboxing him, he took his time. They just had to learn a little bit of patterns, seeing what Kelly was trying to do, and ultimately caught him. Caught him in very, very good fashion. And first knockdown, we were surprised. The second knockdown, straight uppercut. And then the third knockdown, that one looked more like Kelly purposely went down because he just wanted a break. But at that point, it was just academic. Now, calling out Maul at this stage either means he still has confidence in making 160, or you see already hearing the rumblings that maybe Maul is thinking about moving to super middleweight, and that would be the fight. As far as boxing goes, that's not a fight that he can win. However, you can never count him out when he has that right hand, when he has that power. And ultimately, what may derail him, but at least he showed a little bit of patience, in contrast to, unfortunately, Mr. Berlanga showed in to the night.
He has that flower. He has that power. Excuse me, but he's forever flawed because defense, defense, lack thereof. I just, I just, I just think he's only going to go so far. I just don't see him beating Charlo. More and more, it's clear why his camp voted Alan Canuli when they had the opportunity to fight for the interim WBO belt. They protected him somewhat. They're picking and choosing opponents for him. I'm not mad at it. At a certain level, I'm not mad at it because it's one of Golden Boy's more prized uh, 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 fighters in their stable. But it is what it is. He's not elite. I just don't see him being an elite fighter once he finally gets that opportunity. Let's just say Charlo, who had to drop out of a fight due, I think, to a shoulder injury. Let's just say he gets that a fight with Charlo later on this year. I just don't see no way he beats him. There's, excuse me, no way do I see, um, no way do I see Munguia beating Jamal Charlo or any of the best fighters in the division. And yeah, Gail, you thought I was going to talk about this fight earlier, but don't mean you're going to escape it now. As yeah, uh, I'm just going to let you have this. I just saw
Oh,
highlights of it. Fight took place in Miami. Don King card, Trevor Bryan, who held a belt, a heavyweight belt, right? WBA regular strap, took on Daniel Dubois, and as many folks expected, Dubois won. Uh, Trevor Bryan, let's just say he did look in the best of shape. Uh, he got stopped in the fourth round by a left hook, which on replay didn't look that particularly hard. Dubois is a heavyweight champion, but I still think there are many questions that need to be raised about him as well. Because look, his lone loss was to Joe Joyce last year. He got stopped. He had suffered a fracture over the bone, but the thing about that loss was the fact that Joyce beat him with one punch, the jab, and until Dubois fights someone, shows that he can deal with someone with a good jab, there's still an asterisk by him. He got a belt. He's a heavyweight champion, quote unquote, now. But yeah, there's a lot more to be desired despite this stoppage win.
Michael, do I owe you money or something?
I
Listen,
apologize. I
uh,
apologize. You know,
no, no, I'm kind of equal parts amused and indifferent and disgusted, and yeah, it's just it's Don King, okay. And on the one hand, the man is still promoting fights at 90, still roaring away. He's made some deal with the devil, that's for damn sure. But then you look at this fight, and damn, it looked like some bad 90s cable access TV program. The venue was just dirty, looked dark looking, weird. It was just odd. The fight poster looked like somebody had done it on a old Radio Shack or Commodore computer. I go on. You get the picture. And it was a $30 pay-per-view. Yeah. For those who bought it, I mean, we didn't exactly get numbers out of that thing, so who knows? Anyone was buying it. But listen, Don King has his guy with one of those, fake Cracker Jack WBA belts, and at least, there's one down. Dubois has talent. Dubois needs to develop the talent. He's not there yet. He's in the position of being, a heavyweight who they often tend to mature late. So just because he's got that loss on his record to Joyce doesn't mean, we give up on him at this point. But listen, was there anyone who didn't know what they were going to get for their $29.99 or whatever the hell it was? You can tell I didn't buy it. Watching this, Dubois got a few rounds in, flattens Bryan. Bryant's, undefeated record is gone. His belt is gone. He needs to be gone. His career needs to be over. That's it. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Hope you made a few bucks. I hope Don King paid you in crypto, because if he wrote you a check and you didn't cash it right away, there's no guarantees it's gonna clear. My God. Yeah, it was just a mess. But, the objective really here was for Dubois to have a fight in the U.S., get a win, get out, keep busy, bounce back from the loss, and, and then see where he wants to go. And he does have options. He's still worth seeing, not in that setting, but somewhere in the future. There are probably some domestic UK fights he could take. It'd be great for him to be on another major heavyweight undercard. We'll see. But he needs to think very carefully about his path forward. He needs to think very carefully about shoring up his weaknesses in training and in what matchmaking is done for him. Or, just get the feeling that Dubois is going to find himself sort of, running down an alley into a brick wall with nowhere to go and nowhere to turn around. And I would hate to see that happen, if he's still got talent to offer. So let's hope that he really is thoughtful about steering his career forward. Trevor, Bryan, you need to be done. I don't give a damn if you go to WWE or somewhere else, or bare knuckle for all I care, but I think you need to leave boxing, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to some news here and go right back to you, Gail. We look long speculation about the rematch between Alexander Usyk, who's the champion, and Anthony Joshua, who's the challenger. They were supposed to fight in July. Originally set to fight in July. It was pushed back. We all know the myriad of issues with AJ in the midst of a contract, which he ultimately signed a deal with DAZN. Also, hired a new trainer, Robert Garcia. Looks like the fight is going to happen now, August the 20th, in Saudi Arabia, right? And could the fact that this fight was pushed back basically a month, if your team AJ, could this be a bit of a blessing in disguise? Because look, the new trainer, first fight out the gate, is fighting for the heavyweights, a rematch against the guy who outboxed him. He's going to need all the time that he can get to gel with Garcia, but kind of to summon some kind of strategy to win this rematch.
Yeah, I'm not sure a few weeks more is going to make a difference. What would really make a difference is a tune-up fight with Garcia, but he's apparently not going to get that. Until these two men step in the ring, though, I'm not sure we really know what's going to happen, given Usyk's situation, this odd path that Joshua's been on. But he does seem to be serious about boxing, because he has signed a deal with DAZN that really is unusual, in that he's not just got a contract, he has been granted a minority stake ownership in the zone itself so that he profits when the zone profits. So it is absolutely in his best interest now more than ever to heavily promote the zone as an entity, his fights on the zone, his ambassadorship, if you will, of the zone, in particular, I'm sure in the UK and in Western Europe. But I am still trying to figure out Joshua's motivation and objective for what's going on here. He has gotten some incredibly important fights. He has won many of them, but he has lost some of them. And he seems rudderless. I don't know if he needs a manager, a sports psychologist, a trainer that will run him ragged and take no nonsense from him. Honestly, I am just perplexed by the whole thing. He's got talent. He has certainly got star appeal, which often doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what's going on in the ring. He's enormously famous and popular athlete in Great Britain, where he could walk down most any U.S. street and not be recognized. So there's a really odd dichotomy. And you're talking about a former heavyweight world champion. So it's an entirely 2022 story, I guess, when you're looking at Joshua. I hope the fight comes about. I do not think there'll be any difference in the outcome whatsoever.
In short, you're saying that there's something missing with AJ, but you just can't put your finger on what it is and the flaws about him and how can it be fixed.
And I don't think he can figure it out either. So he needs help to do it. He's sort of flailing around looking for answers. I mean, to his credit, he at least understands he needs something more and he needs answers. But yeah, I think we're both in the same situation of not quite knowing what that is. I think that he is also a bit reticent to cut ties with people who've been loyal to him, even if it would be in his best interest. I think it would do him a world of good to relocate outside the UK for training, which might give him a little cover, if you will, out of the spotlight so he can focus. But Garcia has been going to the UK. But no, what Joshua really needs is to come over to the US, get out to Garcia's gym in the Moreno Valley area outside Riverside, where it's just freaking bloody hot already, but blasting hot, with a bunch of tough Mexicans in that gym who take no shit from anybody, who don't give a damn who he is, how much money he has, what kind of car he drives, or how fly he looks in his clothes. They're going to have at him, and that's exactly what he needs.
Tyson Fury, Daniel, WBC heavyweight champion. We all saw his last fight against Dillian White in April, right? Afterwards, he announced his retirement, but this week he's been making the media rounds, and a prevailing question has been whether this is really his retirement. He says he's going to retire, and him and his co-promoter Warren are teasing a big announcement. A question throughout this little tour has been asked about Usyk, and he talked about, in order for him to fight Usyk, y'all gonna have to roll out the bench truck, and for that fight to happen, he tossed around them of 500 milli for that. The thing that I get from all of this, Daniel, is that yeah, he may be quote unquote retired, but he'll certainly get his behind right back in that ring if the money's right.
Yeah, he mentioned it, and I think it was an IG. It was either an IG or a Twitter story that he said, "You want me back in the ring? You're gonna have to pay 500 million for his services." Now, obviously, what's happening is, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said, this is marketing. They probably heard of the Joshua announcement was going to happen, and Interestingly enough, yeah, suddenly you start popping off at the mouth about this. The situation that's a little bit probably interesting in this case is the fact that WWE, who as a company right now is having a very, very, very interesting 24 hours, is probably going to be doing another show in Saudi Arabia. And Fury has had friendly relations with WWE. He has shown up for WWE events. And one of the people that has called him out from the WWE constantly has been one Drew McIntyre. So maybe the announcement with Warren could be like, oh, I'm going to show up at, I think when they go to the fall, they call it Crown Jewel. I'm going to be Crown Jewel against Drew McIntyre, who by that point, like I said, this is WWE we're talking about, who at that point might be their undisputed Universal Champion because he's challenging Roman Reigns in September in a WWE pay-per-view called Clash of the Castle. That could be the announcement. Or this is just another way just to get the headlines away from Joshua and put himself back into the picture because I think he understands. Because he mentioned he has to break the bench with the fight Usyk because I think he understands that yes, he beat Dillian Wright, he beat Deontay Wilder, he beat Klitschko. There's a realistic chance he cannot beat Usyk. And rather than take that loss, you can position yourself out and set an exorbitant price for a comeback. The only way this could actually be somewhat enforced is if Mauricio Suleiman decides to say, okay, if you're retired, then you're no longer the WBC champion. Then we have to get the little tournament going, which actually I think I if I looked at the rankings last year, you could probably correct me on this. I think it is White and Wilder who are considered still 1 and 2 in the WBC. So they could fight for the vacant championship. But that's only if Mauricio decides to strip him. He could do the franchise thing, call him the franchise heavyweight champion. But it's Fury. He knows how to market himself. He knows how to get headlines. But he also knows that at the end of the day, he probably knows in the back of his head if it's Alexander Usyk that comes out of the rematch with Joshua is still the winner, he's not going to beat that guy.
I was going to ask your opinion about this, Gail, but we have a question. But we have a question here in the chat. I want to address to everybody. Los Libertinos podcast. Again, appreciate you for checking us out. Make sure you hit that like button if you hadn't already. Make sure to subscribe. He asked him the question. Okay, who wants to tackle this? He's asked, what do y'all think of Figueroa Broner matchup coming up, happening next month in Chicago? I have
Why will you let me
nothing.
through? Oh my God.
I got nothing. I don't know what we're going to see from Broner. I mean, Figueroa, he's coming off of some setbacks, but still, I like I said, I got nothing. Gail, Daniel, what say y'all?
Daniel.
Los libertinos, ¿por qué me haces eso, hombre? ¿Por qué me haces eso? But I guess I'll say it. It is what it is. This fight is what it is. You have a broken down Adrian Broner, and you have, unfortunately, a broken down Omar Figueroa. This fight 10 years ago, or even 9 years ago, would have been a fight to make if Broner was able to make 135. Because that was at the point where Omar was still in his zone. Unfortunately, at this stage, we know what Broner is. Unfortunately, right now at this stage, we know what he is in the ring. We know what he is financially. With Omar, obviously, he's had some setbacks and has been overshadowed, and it happens, overshadowed by his younger brother Brandon. It's it's a fight. Like it is what it is. Like, you have two people on the road. This reminds me of, and I'm not saying I'm not saying it's because of where they stand. It just reminds me of where the point it was in their careers. Do y'all remember Roy Jones versus Felix Trinidad?
Oh yeah.
Hey,
That's that's the point.
listen. Sometimes you see these matchups, and the only appropriate response is just laugh your ass off. I mean, listen, I do not want to disrespect anybody who gets in the ring. I truly don't. But some guys need to be retired. Some guys need to be done. These two guys need to be done. If they're going to get in against each other, you know, at least it's a somewhat even, completely trash-tastic episode. If you're into that, great. If you're particularly wanting to see one man's ass get kicked over the other, got some skin in it, great. There's an audience for it. I get that. It doesn't mean I have to be the audience for every single fight out there. And yeah, I really hate this phrase, but Daniel, you broke the rule to prove the rule. It is what it is.
Um,
Sadly, yeah.
Both neither guy has really fulfilled their potential. It comes off as a has been versus a never was. That's all I got. That's all I got. Comes off as a
Oh,
has been versus a never was.
now the question is, who's the has been and who's the never what?
Oh,
Broner is the
oh,
has been.
damn.
You know, I
Broner is the
would
has been, and Figueroa was the never was.
I would actually argue for the opposite, because at least Omar was an entertaining fighter at this stage.
But at least
He,
Broner was a world champion, multiple world champion, and Figueroa had all this praise and had all this adulation and hype coming out when he turned pro and early in his pro career, but he just didn't seem to be a guy who had the sufficient work ethic, right, to enhance his talent. Whereas Broner had the talent to be a world champion, but just didn't have the work ethic and the discipline to sustain it.
yeah, that was the bad thing about Omar. Unfortunately, Omar loves to get into firefights, even when it's not really in his best interest to do it, and that's unfortunately what has derailed his career for the most part for reaching the upper echelon. But the main reason when I say when it comes to Broner is the fact that yeah, he was a multiple time world champion, but I always remember how much the British broadcasters were hyping up Broner in the fight against Maidana. I remember that vividly. They crowned him already. He said, he is the next Floyd Mayweather. He is the he will take the Mecca by storm. He has done it. And then we saw what our good friend Aaron Green calls one of the greatest events in American history. And ultimately, yeah, it proved a high jump bomb. Even though there was a hype among hardcores when it came to Omar, it never got to that level that we saw with Broner. And that's what makes the fall of Broner a lot more tragic.
Yeah, you're right. Libertinos. He did win technically a WBC title, um, vacant back in 2014, right? And even um, made I believe he made at least one defense, if memory serves me correct. But again, he didn't sustain it. Should have kept his butt at 135. He moved up to 140 and he ate himself out of the division. What did I say? Didn't have the discipline to sustain his to enhance and sustain himself. It showed at that moment. He looked like he had the potential to be something. He ultimately didn't. And that's on him. Just like it's on Broner for his failings over the years. So two peas in the pod here. It's just that one fighter was just more successful, got more acclaim, got more notoriety than the other. But the fight itself, yeah, pretty meh about it. Uh, will I watch it? More than likely, yeah. Will it have my undivided attention? Nope. Nope. Let's move on to some more news. Right quick. We finished talked about Fury and his issues of talk teasing that he's going to come out of quote unquote retirement if the money's right. Uh, fell into that rabbit hole with Broner and Figueroa. Let's get back on script here. For anyone who wants it, news regarding one Vergil Ortiz. We all know he had to drop out of a fight because of a medical condition. It seems whoever wants to tackle this, he seems he's going to be back now. He's fighting Michael McKinson on August 6th. Your thoughts, anyone?
There is going to be a media roundtable tomorrow with Ortiz and McKinson. This is the fight that fell out when Ortiz was hospitalized. So good for him and Golden Boy making good on that deal with McKinson, who lost out on that fight through no fault of his own. Who did end up, however, getting a co-main event fight on the card, so they at least salvaged a little something for him. The fight's going to take place in Fort Worth, Texas, which makes it completely an Ortiz crowd. Who's surprised by that? And I believe the date is the 6th of August.
Yeah, the fight itself is going to happen August 6th, apparently.
Yep, there we go. So, that will shore up Ortiz with the UK boxing fans, get them a chance to see him against one of theirs, which is primarily the reason for the fight, other than keeping Ortiz busy. I don't think anybody thinks for a minute it's going to be all that competitive. But there's now a little bit of an intrigue seeing how Ortiz looks after he was out of commission here for a few weeks.
The question I have is, because Alexa, I saw it, is this going to be 147 or 154?
It's a 147 fight.
Oh, interesting.
147, yeah. Yeah, it is.
Interesting. Well, I better hope that Mr. Crawford and Mr. Spence then get to the negotiating table pretty quick, because Oscar may actually pull the trigger on Vergil against Bud if he looks good enough.
Right. I think that's a good possibility, and I'm sure we'll get to ask him about it tomorrow, and I'm sure the answer will be, I'm focused on my next opponent and nothing else. We all know what the answers are going to be, and all the questions are going to get asked anyway.
Absolutely. Let's move on to preview some fights here. One main fight I want to focus on, Gail and Daniel, and that is unification bout is going to happen at light heavyweight in NYC, in New York, excuse me, on ESPN as unified champ Artur Beterbiev, WBC, IBF. He's fighting WBO champion Joe Smith. Battle of two punchers here, everyone. Okay. I can see a scenario of this fight going the distance. I actually think that Smith is the more active fighter. There are moments, there are spots in which some would argue that he's more consistent, right? But Beterbiev is one tough, super physically strong dude who can crack. Conversely, he has shown a susceptible chin. Smith has powerful and tough, but there are moments where he can be outboxed. Bivol proved that, and even the fight in which he won the belt, Smith, it was by controversial nature, in my opinion. I think this is going to be a good fight. I'm personally leaning towards Beterbiev, but I wouldn't count Smith out one bit in this fight. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he would win it. Um, he's the underdog, Smith, but I think he's a very live one. Gail and Daniel, your thoughts on this fight?
The closer this fight gets, and we're now 48 hours away, the more the boxing community is getting whipped up with excitement over this, because it is a true 50-50 fight between two absolute wicked power punchers, both of whom have the ability to take out the other with a single punch, no matter how far behind they might be on the cards at the time. So as long as both men are standing, both men have a chance, a solid chance, not just a puncher's chance. And both of them do, in their own ways, have skills in addition to punching. But is it going to devolve to just a slugfest? I'm not sure either man can take a sustained slugfest for multiple rounds. It's intriguing. It is for legitimate stakes. It is for unifying the three belts that do not belong to Dimitri Bivol in this division, and inevitably the winner will likely face Bivol, which sets up a very interesting situation. Bivol has already beaten Smith Jr. once, although in that fight, as most people know who saw it recall, Smith did get a crack in on Bivol and wobble him. Bivol recovered nicely, so we know Bivol does have a chin, because he weathered that storm, went on to win the fight that he had otherwise been winning very handily. But it's also probable that Bivol's the kind of opponent that will be very, very difficult for Artur Beterbiev, as long as he can avoid getting cracked by Beterbiev. So no matter what the outcome, we have some intriguing competition ahead to get that division unified. And it sets up the perfect opportunity, should Canelo Alvarez decide to pursue a rematch with Bivol, that it can be for all the belts at light heavyweight, which gives him much more motivation to take on that rematch. Right now, it's somewhat limited. So it makes for a fascinating script. It should make for a great fight. And folks, it is not on pay-per-view. It is an ESPN fight. So if you like action fights, you don't want any of this tactical, purist, technical shit, we got a fight for you on Saturday.
At the very least, Daniel, the expectation is, and many people believe that this is going to be going to be exciting from opening bell until the end. Hard to envision these two having a boxing, having a wit of skills here, and just being a outright boxing match.
Yeah, you're not gonna get that at this stage, unfortunately, and you're not gonna get that at this stage because, like I said, out here in Long Island, people love Joe Smith. He, like I said, his story is like the quintessential Long Island Irish story, and like I said, he hasn't. I shown the Bibble fight, like you mentioned, he hasn't shown the best technical skill, but he has shown that if you give him a chance, he will crack. And unfortunately, when it comes to Beterbiev, even though he's the more technical sound fighter and as tough as nails, his body has also been breaking down very, very rapidly. And that's the key factor that Joe Smith has to take advantage of when it comes into this. Because like I said, this is not going to be a technical fight. You're not going to see a masterclass in bring generalship and technique and defense in this fight. You're going to see probably at the end of the day two rock and sock'em robots coming in, with one probably going to have a very very sizable home field advantage because they, I'll admit Top Rank did their best trying to give equal footing to people, putting it in the Hulu theater in Madison Square Garden because this would have been perfect for the new USB arena. Perfect for it.
Quick,
Yeah,
quickly before we begin to shut things down here, a quick word on I think a pretty interesting undercard bout is taking place. Abraham Nova, who I believe is ranked at featherweight, fighting Robisi Ramirez, who was highly touted out the gate. Cuban lost his first bout as a pro, but I think he rebounded quite nicely. Uh, I think he's starting to find him. He's starting to really find himself in there as a professional. On paper, Daniel and Gale sets up to be a really 50-50, 60-40, 50-50, 60-40 a kind of matchup. I'm low key looking forward to this one.
that one's going to be an interesting one, especially when it comes to 126. We know featherweight right now how the field is, and with the rebounds that have been happening lately in fights after losses, this is going to be a very interesting fight. It'll be the thing that's probably going to pull in the early crowd on it because people keep forgetting when it comes to Cuban fighters, if they want to fight New York, there's a pretty sizable Cuban American community in New Jersey that does cross the bridge. If it's a good fighter, does cross the bridge and they'll go into the Hulu theater to watch this. This is going to be a low key good fight. It could be low key as far as technical standpoint. It's probably going to be fight of the night. So I said the main event is going to be Lock and Soccer Robots.
Quick word on this, Gale, or you good?
Yeah, it is going to be, I think, a very good fight. I'm intrigued that Top Rank has chosen to put these two guys together. It's a kind of counterintuitive matchmaking for me because they both still have upsides and potential. They're going to make one or the other prove himself, as prospects. Um, Nova's got a big following there in New York. You see him on my avatar with his new mascot. We're counting on the mascot being there. And Nova's does a very interesting self-promotion also to get his name out there. He appeared this week on American Ninja Warrior on the NBC network, which really surprised me. I did not know he was going to appear, and he got a big wound up Michael Buffer style introduction from the hosts, and there he was. And let's just say that it's a good thing that Abraham has boxing to fall back on because his ninja skills were not quite up to par. But he's had some good outings. He's a great interview. He is coming into his own. And here they put up a former Olympic gold medalist against him, a Cuban who's starting to build a following, who Top Rank took a chance on, who lost his American professional debut and has been climbing back ever since. So, yeah, I'm very interested to see how this all comes together.
And if you hear the barking in the background, those are Gale's dogs
Yeah,
expressing their
they're very
excitement over
evenly
the fight.
matched. They're a true 50-50 fight. So
Yeah, and if you heard them earlier, they was expressing their outrage over the Trevor Bryan Daniel Dubois fight. So
they hated that
for
shit.
long time listeners
Everybody else.
for listeners of the show, new listeners of the show, Gail's her boxers quite provide quite an interesting backdrop.
Yeah,
Pro or con of fight, long time listeners, y'all already know. I think
Including the other one whose name is Manny. Yes, after that, Manny.
oh man,
Go
I
ahead,
kind of
Danny.
figured they cheered. I'm sorry, I've kind of figured they cheered. They were cheering the Golden State Warriors because Jesus Christ, look what they're doing.
Yeah, this is being recorded
I'm
live
telling
as Game 6 of the NBA Finals are happening, and yeah, it looks like the Warriors they got this. Steph Curry is just showing his entire behind, just on fire right now, as they have currently a 17-point lead late in the third quarter. And I think we're going to end this particular episode on that note. I want to thank everybody, Los Libertinos podcast. Um, Fingers crossed, you may see yours truly and Gail on a future episode of his podcast in the not too far future. I want to thank Tony Man 2C, excuse me, for his comments, as well as Jay for his earlier comments as well. If you like what you've heard this evening, make sure to please hit that likes button. Please make sure to follow us as well. Again, subscribe. It'll help the overall algorithm and get us closer and closer to being monetized. If you hear this on podcast platform like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, anywhere and everywhere else in between. Make sure you follow us as there. If you check us out on Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. A 5-star review will get read on the show. I'm going to go around the panel here. I'm sorry we didn't have Jacob this evening. I hope to have him back on a future episode. If you want to check out Jacob talking boxing or television and film, Jacob from Jackpot Boxing, you can check him out on Twitter at JRATM23. I'm gonna repeat that, JRATM23. I go around to the rest of the panel here. Begin the show with ladies first, end the show with ladies first. Gail from Communities Digital News, nyfights.com. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk media, it's all things media, because you do teach media on the side. For those who want to check you out occasionally on TMZ Live, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
I'm going to talk fast. We're between rounds in this house. You can find me. I'm in column now at nyfights.com with the mighty crew there. We will have our editor-in-chief and founder, Michael Woods, covering Beterbiev and Smith Jr. ringside in New York. Looking forward to that. I will add whatever I can to that mix, and that's where you find my best stuff. And he lets me swear once in a while, too.
I'll go to you, Daniel, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk pro wrestling and the interesting news regarding Vince McMahon uh, giving the shaft. That's the wrong analogy. Let's just say some controversial decisions around a couple of women's wrestlers that's popped up, giving one the boot. I think unfairly giving one the boot. Rumored to giving them the boot, or for those who want to talk the NBA, especially as it pertains to the Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Yes, folks, you can find me on Twitter, RAWKZ99, Ruckus99. Yeah, like I said, this has been a very, very interesting 24 hours for WWE. If it's not supposedly releasing Sasha Banks, although there's no been confirmation on that, is the fact that, yeah, Vince McMahon might have his own Me Too movement coming for him. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that part. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness with me, you know what it is, Brother JR at Brother JR76 on Twitter. As I said at the beginning of the show, if you want to check out all things Pound for Pound Box Report, site is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.com. If you would like to email us with comments, questions, you can do so, p4pboxing at p4pboxingreport.com. On the site itself, you'll find links to where to catch us on all social media platforms. The links to the Facebook page, links to the Twitter page, links to the YouTube channel, links to catch us on IG and Tumblr. Also links to catch us on all podcast platforms available. Links to where you can donate. Cash Me and PayPal donation links are on the page. That donation be the best nation. And once again, last but certainly not least, links to Beachbody on Demand, where again, at the very least, take advantage of the 14-day free trial, where you can get 2 weeks of free access to all programs on Beachbody on Demand. Excellent source for whatever your fitness goals, as we are just inching closer and closer to summer. If you're looking for a boxing specific program, check out 10 Rounds. I went through it a couple times. 6-week programs, 5 days a week. 5 days a week. 3 of those days you do boxing based cardio. 2 days you do weightlifting and resistance work. If you're looking for other programs, you're looking for something weightlifting specific, please check out Lift 4. They're coming with a part two of that uh, um, this later on this summer. For those who are Beachbody On Demand subscribers, yeah, they're doing a preview work, a sample workout that's coming June 27th. Also, if you want to check out programs like 6 weeks of work, 645, the old school P90X series, X P90X 1, 2, and 3. I strongly suggest you check for world class athletes. If you're a future fighter, you're looking for something to get your body right away from the gym, I strongly suggest you check out P90X2. That's good for all athletes in general. Um, Other things, Morning Meltdown, Barblin, MFBA. Ladies love those programs a lot. So yeah, check out Beachbody On Demand whenever you get the chance to. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Bertebiev and Joe Smith. We will do a recap of Abraham and Robisi Ramirez, and we will also do a preview of a lot of boxing that's happening on the 25th, specifically in San Antonio. It's going to be on the Zone, headlined by really interesting bout at 115. Newly crowned WBC champion Jesse Bam Rodriguez is fighting the vet himself, former champion Srisa Katsor side on the undercard of there. Unified 122-pound champion MJ Akhmadaliev facing mandatory challenger Ronnie Rios. Also on that card, Julio Cesar Martinez coming off of his loss to Roman Gonzalez. He's moving back down to 112 to defend his WBC flyweight strap against McWilliams and Royal. Also, Jessica McCaskill. Pay attention to this fight. Pay attention to this fight. McCaskill, undisputed champion at 147 pounds. She's defending those belts against mandatory challenger Alma Ibarra. We've talked about Ibarra here. I think she has a real chance to win. A real chance to win. I wrote a profile for her for Three Kings Boxing. So loaded, excellent card on the 25th on the Zone. So we will talk about all of those fights for sure. So again, once again, I want to thank everybody who joined us in the live chat. I hope to have Jacob back on next week. For Gil of NYFights.com, Communities Digital News, for Daniel for Boxing News and the Inscriber, I'm your host, Michael. This is once again episode 167 of the Pound for Pound Box Report. We'll see you guys next time. Y'all have a good one.